We are officially over halfway through the Formula One season and it is heating up. For the Constructors' Championship, McLaren look like they've got it all wrapped up and won, as they currently sit on 617 points in first place. In second place, you have Ferrari on 280 points, with Mercedes in third with 260 points. In the second half of the season, it seems like there may be a fight for second place between Ferrari and Mercedes. However, in the Drivers' Championship, things are heating up, with drama coming between two drivers. Both McLaren drivers sit in first and second with 31 points between them. Oscar Piastri sits in first while Lando Norris sits in second. Meanwhile, the reigning world champion Max Verstappen sits in third, and at the moment seems like the only driver that can drive a Red Bull car this season, even though he is struggling to claim race wins. Ferrari, on the other hand, have taken a huge risk by signing Lewis Hamilton, and the same with Hamilton signing with the Scuderia. So far, the risk has not really paid off. The 7-time world champion had high expectations and has so far only won one race this season, and that was a sprint race in China. Since then, he has struggled to get to grips with the new car. However, there are still 8 races to go, so anything can happen. We're now going to talk about the big headlines that have happened this season so far, and we have to remember that the season is not over, but there has been a lot of big headlines and a lot of drama that have already happened this season. One of the big ones being that Red Bull decided to change their second driver at the Japanese Grand Prix. So Liam Lawson was the original lineup alongside Max Verstappen for the Red Bull team, but he only managed to do 2 races with the team when they decided to swiftly replace him with Yuki Tsunoda, who was with Racing Bulls at the time. So the 2 drivers swapped teams. So Liam Lawson went to Racing Bulls and Yuki Tsunoda took a step up and went to Red Bull and has remained there for the rest of the season. We then had Kimi Antonelli scoring a podium and is the second youngest ever person to ever do it. He is behind the Canadian of Lance Stroll, and I believe it's only by a couple of days or a couple of months, but he is the second youngest ever to secure a podium in Formula One. We then had Nico Hülkenberg finally scoring his first podium in his 239th race. He finished third at the British Grand Prix. And just after that, we were hit with one of the biggest and shocking news that has come out so far this season, and that is that Christian Horner was sacked as Red Bull team principal. He was there for 10 years and has seen champions go by. He was there when Sebastian Vettel won the championship for Red Bull. He won 4, and was also there for obviously Max Verstappen winning his 4 championships. So he is there and won 8 world championships with the team, and he was there for 10 years. But along with a lot of things that have happened with him during the start of the season, Red Bull felt like it was the right decision to get rid of him, as they were also not performing on the track. On to the race results. Now, we first started off in Australia, and this is the first time we have started off in Australia in a while. And the top 3 in Australia were Lando Norris, who finished in first, Max Verstappen in second, and finally George Russell. And it wasn't the season opener that many of the drivers would have wanted this season, with only 2 rookies finishing the race. We then went over to China, and the sprint race result top 3 was Lewis Hamilton, Oscar Piastri and Max Verstappen. The Grand Prix result was Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris and George Russell. We then went over to Japan, and the result was Max Verstappen finished on top, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri in third. We then went over to Bahrain for round 4, where Piastri finished on top with George Russell behind him in second and Lando Norris sat in third. We then went to Saudi Arabia and the result was Oscar Piastri, Max Verstappen and Leclerc. Now this was the first time that a Ferrari was on the podium since the Chinese Grand Prix, first time since then. We then went over to America where we had the Miami Grand Prix and this was the second sprint of the season. So we had Lando Norris who won the sprint, followed by his teammate Oscar Piastri, followed by Lewis Hamilton. The Grand Prix result was Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris and George Russell in third. We then went to Italy for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix and the result was Max Verstappen, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. It was then the crown jewel race with Monaco happening. Now many Monegasque people were hoping that Charles Leclerc would manage to come back and pull off another victory, but sadly it wasn't meant to be. The result was Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc in second and Oscar Piastri in third. And obviously Charles Leclerc would have wanted another race win in his home country. This is Lando Norris's first Monaco win as well, so he's turned his third place into a first. We then had the Spanish Grand Prix and it was round 9 of the season. So we had Oscar Piastri in first, Lando Norris in second and Charles Leclerc in third. We then went back over the waters to Canada for round 10. George Russell won the race, Max Verstappen came in second, and the rookie of Kimi Antonelli came in third. Now this was Kimi Antonelli's first ever podium in Formula 1 and he is the second youngest to do it. And this was the first podium without a McLaren on it as well for the first time this season. We then went back over to Europe for the Austrian Grand Prix and it was Lando Norris who finished on top with Oscar Piastri in second and Charles Leclerc in third. We then had the British Grand Prix and it did not disappoint. It was Lando Norris who finished his first ever British Grand Prix on the top spot. We then had Oscar Piastri in second and for the first time ever, Nico Hülkenberg finished in third, and this was Hülkenberg's first ever podium since he started Formula 1. We then went to Belgium for round 13, and again it was another sprint race. So we had, for the sprint results, Max Verstappen winning, Oscar Piastri in second, and Lando Norris in third. The race result was a little bit different. We had Oscar Piastri in first, Lando Norris in second, and Charles Leclerc in third. Round 14 was Hungary, and the race result was Lando Norris on the top spot again, with Oscar Piastri in second and George Russell in third. We then headed over to Max Verstappen's home race, and it was the Dutch Grand Prix, and the result was Oscar Piastri in first, Max Verstappen in second, and the rookie of Isaac Hadjar in first. Now this was Isaac Hadjar's very first podium in F1 as well. We have then just had the second Italian Grand Prix, which is being held in Monza, and the race result was Max Verstappen in first, Lando Norris in second, and Oscar Piastri in third, making it Max doing the double in Italy, where he has won the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix and the Monza Grand Prix. We then heard the other day that Cadillac will have announced their driver lineup as they will be joining the season next year, the F1 grid next year. So that means it will take the total up to 22 drivers on the grid instead of 20 and 11 teams on the grid instead of 10. Now we heard that they announced their driver lineup, and their driver lineup was not really a shock as it had been rumoured for quite a while. We have the driver from Mercedes, which he is reserve driver currently, of Valtteri Bottas joining Cadillac. And then the ex-Red Bull driver Sergio Perez will also be joining the Finnish driver with the American team. Now it seems to me that Cadillac have gone with experience more than they've gone with experience to get them the step up to joining Formula One, and hopefully will gain them points with the knowledge that they have with both Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez with their team, as they have been there for a very long time and obviously know the sport inside and out. And the second biggest news is that Isaac Hadjar is the second rookie to score a podium this season. He obviously finished third at the Dutch Grand Prix, and like I said, is the second rookie to finish on the podium this season. So that is all for now. We have the Azerbaijan Grand Prix coming up next week. And like I said, we've got 8 races down to go until the end of the season. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see who in the championship comes out on top, as it is heating up quite quickly. Who is going to come out on top? But it's safe to say that the Constructors' Championship is wrapped up with McLaren winning it. But for this season, it has been a very good and very interesting season to see how close the cars have come to each other and how competitive it has got. But one thing is for sure, it is definitely nice to see McLaren back on top where they belong. Thank you everyone, and I'll see you all soon.